Hi, this is Jason Fielder with the Daily Forex Report for January 7th. We're going to take a look at the U.S. Japanese yen pair first. This particular session, I'm looking for this pair to move as high as 94.96 and as low as 91.23. Now look for some resistance to come in at around 92.82 and look for support around 92.31. For this pair. This pair did pull back today, not real significant, but it did pull back. I believe the market is starting to move sideways again, and bias is sideways as well. Now switching over to the Euro USD pair, this particular pair, I'm looking for it to move as high as 138.74 and as low as 132.97. Now look for some resistance at 137.50 and look for support around 134.13 in this particular pair. This pair also pulled back from the short little trim we had to the downside. I believe it's starting to move sideways as well. Bias is sideways. I wouldn't be surprised if this market came on down to around this point and maybe lower, but closed around this level. And the market pretty much moves sideways. Now switching over to the pound USD, this particular pair, I'm looking for it to move as high as 154.30 on the very high side, and on the low side 146.04. Now look for some resistance to come in at around 152.00 and look for support around 149.92 in this pair. This pair continues to move sideways. The bias is definitely to the upside right now, but overall this pair is moving sideways. If you pull back out a little bit, you can definitely see this happening over the past several weeks. We've had this up, down, up kind of action. If we get a get something that comes down, we may look for it to head and shoulders forming to go short, but we'll have to just wait and see on that. Now looking at the US Swiss, let me zoom in a little bit. There we go. This particular pair I'm expecting to move as high as 113.02 and as low as 10765. Now look for some resistance at 111.40. Look for support to kick in around 1.0880 in this pair. This pair pulled back, moving sideways, biased to sideways so far. I really believe this will continue to move sideways, similar to the Euro USD pair. Now, as far as what I'm looking at for this next session, it's not that much. I am looking for this particular pair to break out. We actually formed an inside bar in the Australian US dollar pair, and it'll take a little bit to get there. It may not be this next session, it may be the next one, maybe Friday, but basically looking for it to go below, take a short at this point, right below that low, and look for it to move down to this area of former resistance that it would now be support. And then what the numbers look like on that would be taking a short at around 0.7030 and looking to exit that trade at around 0.6968. That's 62 pips worth of profit between those two. Something else I'm looking at, and I'm just going to watch this one. I'm not going to take this one as a trade just yet, but basically looking for this particular pair to move higher, breaking this high here and moving up to this point. I'd just be interested to see if it does that. If you back out a little bit, you can see that we hit some resistance in this area, or some move sideways in this area. So it's very likely that we could hit some resistance and not bounce back as quickly as I would think. But it's just something I'm watching and wanted to let y'all be aware of it. Now moving ahead to what we have for this next session, we have the Swiss releasing their CPI report for December. The consensus is that it has gone up from negative 0.7% to negative 0.4%, which would be an increase in inflation. Year to date, it has dropped from 1.5% down to negative 0.9%. That's being released at 1:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, we also have the pound releasing their rate decision at 7 a.m. Tomorrow morning Eastern Time, and this will probably quiet the markets down quite a bit until that time comes. It's a great time between now and then to trade a counter trend strategy. So if you have one, it's a great time to trade it because the market should be fairly thin. It looks like they're going to drop the rate from 2% down to 1.5%. And if that is true, if that does occur, we could see it influence the markets. It's probably, if it's greater than that, if it's a greater move than that, we could definitely see it move the markets. If it comes out as expected, it should have some effect, but nothing major. Now, looking ahead to the Canadian dollar releasing their Purchasing Managers Index for December at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the consensus is that it has dropped from 40.2 down to 37.5, which will be negative news for the Canadian dollar if that is the case. Well, that about does it for today. Until tomorrow, this is Jason Fielder. Good trading.